Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go. Here you go.
Change of heart. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It's Monday, March 10th, 2025. And without further ado, we've got plenty to get to because we're going to talk Josh Allen. So much happened in the National Football League this weekend. Major League Baseball, the season starts in 8 days. Plenty of stuff there, but we're starting with change of heart because this story, when Coke and I were debating the order in which we talk about things, Myles Garrett wins. Myles, you win. You get the leadoff spot because your change of heart is epic. And yes, I'm calling you out on it. Myles Garrett, best edge rusher in football, we could argue, certainly in the group of the best. But let's just say he's the best. It doesn't mean your team's the best. 4-13 does not make you the best team. But Myles Garrett wanted us to know because he's yet another in the long line of players and executives who want you to believe that you're stupid. I hate pointing out the fact when people don't treat you with respect because I really try to. And remember, Myles Garrett said the goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It has always been to compete for and win a Super Bowl. I will not. I love calling this city my home. My desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. We forgot to say, Myles, when you say you don't want to be complacent, talk to me. Tell me what you mean. Are you going to take on more charitable work? Are you going to take on more off the field responsibilities? Maybe more kids? Tell me, are you going to call your agent, Nicole Lynn, and say, hey, do me a favor and find out if Andrew Berry will make me the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of football? Max Crosby does his deal with the Raiders, and Myles Garrett says, it turns out that my complacency is more financial related than winning related, and the whole Cleveland to Canton thing that doesn't matter to me, let's see if we can't change the narrative. Hey, Andrew, any thoughts? So Clutch Sports, through Nicole Lynn, sits with Andrew Berry for 36 hours, and boom, the quote comes in. Myles had a change of heart. I have a little tear in my eye. I'm so happy for him. He had an epiphany. Myles Garrett realized that Cleveland was not the mistake by the lake. He realized that Cleveland is exactly where he wanted to hang his hat. His change of heart is that he's excited to go from Cleveland to Canton and chase a championship in Ohio. Why? Because Myles Garrett just got $123.5 million in guaranteed money. Myles Garrett is now the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Myles Garrett will now average about $40 million per year. It turns out that everything he said was complete horse hockey. Fans of the Cleveland Browns, you may not care. You may be super excited that Myles Garrett has signed and is staying with you in Cleveland. Fans of other teams in the Central or other teams around football, you may say, I get it. Our friend Pete Prisco, Hall of Fame, rings, they pale in comparison to money. David Samson, money, business. What made you think when Myles Garrett was telling you that he had an interest in winning, what made you think that he would be the one who was different? Because he said so? Myles Garrett, with his $40 million a year contract, knowing that now he's interested in going from Cleveland to Canton, now says, through his agent, of course, that his decision to stay in Cleveland, he wanted to get it done before free agency. He had 2 years left. He was prepared to sit out games if his trade demand was not met. Give up money in the name of principle, in the name of winning, in the name of lack of complacency. Now, he is going to get this done. You have 36 hours to do it. He's going to get it done because, quote, according to his agent, he can now start recruiting free agents. Let me just make sure I understand this, because the way it's going to work is that Andrew Berry has to do splits. He's got to do contortions in a way that would make him circus worthy in order to make a 4-13 team better, with Deshaun Watson making what he's making and Myles Garrett making what he's making, because as good as Myles Garrett was, and he's maybe the best, 4-13, yummy. They are on the cusp of greatness, on the edge of darkness. He's going to walk into an agent's office, or maybe he'll just go see a player during an offseason workout and saying, listen, I've got the greatest recruiting idea for you. I want you to come to Cleveland. Now, it is true we have a crappy quarterback who's overpaid. It is true that my contract takes up a ton of cap space. It is true that we only won 4 games last year, but let me tell you something. We're building. We're changing. This is the environment that you want to be in. This is a winning environment. This is where we don't breed complacency. I'm worked up this morning. I'm worked up. And if you don't think that we have the best stadium situation, then you're not paying attention. All we're doing is being sued by the city of Cleveland for violating the Modell law, where we're trying to move outside of Cleveland into this amazing stadium that I promise you will not be open and available until long after we're done with our careers. It's like the pitch, Coca. This reminded me of the Oakland A's pitch to Luis Severino. Hey, I know, 3 years, $67 million. We're going to give you the biggest contract ever in A's history, and we are so excited for Vegas. We'll talk about that later in the show. Oh, that's right. You're going to play in Sacramento for the entirety of your contract. The whole thing is like a joke. The whole winning thing, the whole I want to be traded thing, it had nothing to do with Myles Garrett wanting to leave Cleveland or not leave Cleveland. It only had to do with him wanting to get paid. Next time, save us all. Allow me to put 8 extra minutes in a show last week on a different subject. Allow me to not have to spend 8 minutes today when I haven't even gotten to Josh Allen or Gerrit Cole. Just come out and be a man. You're a big, strong, scary man at the line of scrimmage. How about taking a microphone and say, show me the money. Show me the money. But Myles, you have 2 years left. I know, but show me the money. Do you know that this whole weekend started with Myles Garrett trying to get a meeting with Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, the aforementioned 3869. Myles Garrett tried to get a meeting with Jimmy Haslam over the weekend. Jimmy Haslam, the owner, the one who was the creator of the aforementioned Deshaun Watson $230 million ceiling, which has now been cracked. Spoiler alert, next topic. Jimmy Haslam denied the meeting with Myles Garrett. Said, you requested a trade. You don't want to be here. I was thinking, Coca, the number of players during my 18 years who requested a meeting with our owner, So I thought about it. It took a minute, and I went year by year. I looked at team photos. Am I forgetting something? And the total number of owner meeting requests was 0. Not one. Plenty of players wanted things as it related to money, contracts, perks, improvements in the clubhouse. But requesting an owner meeting? Forget it. Good for Haslam to say no. You really dug in there from a negotiating standpoint. You had this thing nailed, Jimmy. You are a candidate for the owner of the year because you denied the request for a meeting. You dug in there and then boom, you gave him $40 million a year and made him the highest paid non-quarterback in football. Woo! Thank heavens for that. I was picturing Jerry Jones, Coca. Not the GM, because I don't care about the GM. I was picturing the owner, Jerry Jones, thinking to himself, I am so smart. I have ignored the Micah Parsons situation, and the market hasn't moved at all. Everything that I did with Dak was perfect. With Lamb was perfect. My plan is amazing. We do nothing but winning. And now we've waited for Micah. I think Jerry Jones may have called up the owners of the Bengals. And yes, you know me well enough after 1,231 episodes that it is completely escaping my mind who owns the Bengals. But I think Jerry Jones may have called the owner of the Bengals and said, hey, did you actually promise that you were going to make Hendrickson, Hutchinson? God, this would have been better if I didn't get the name right. God dang it, Coca. It's Monday. Here we go. Just clip it from here. Do you think Jerry Jones called the Bengals owner and said, you've got the right plan? You went public saying that you're going to make Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback. And what you did smartly is you waited for other players to sign to set the market so you have a higher hurdle that you have to climb. Because you could just make Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback yesterday, like the Raiders did with Crosby, and then boom, let someone else break it. You didn't say he'd always be the highest paid non-quarterback. I think Jerry Jones and the Bengals are completely screwed. Just like I am. It was over a month ago that I gave you a wait to see about Myles Garrett. And lest you think that I don't revisit wait to sees, which I do, I told you Myles Garrett would get traded. Who knew we'd have a change of heart? That's a no. When Deshaun Watson signed for $230 million guaranteed, I told you back a couple years ago when it happened, I think in 22, 3 years ago, I said, that's it. Owners are furious. That will be the ceiling. They will not pass Deshaun Watson, principle alone, to show Haslam that what he did was wrong. And then the news alert comes that Josh Allen has signed a new 6-year, let's rip up the last 4 and give you $330 million to be our quarterback as we head into our new $800 million over the budget that's already been increased. And we're going to guarantee you $250 million. I nearly fell off my bed. And the reason I fell off is that I love Josh Allen. Josh Allen, to me, this is going to blow your mind. Josh Allen's a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson. Hold on. We could spend the rest of the show telling you quarterbacks that are better than Deshaun Watson. But Josh Allen, clearly, ringless, but going from Orchard Park to Canton, I love it. But here's the thing. Once an owner decides that a previously untouchable record is now not just touched, but cruised by, what you've done is created havoc and mayhem for the Ravens, for the Eagles. Dolphins fans are going to say for the Dolphins, I won't. The Chiefs, Mahomes redoes his contract every month. Gadunishtik. Are you telling me that Patrick Mahomes should not have more guaranteed money starting today than Deshaun Watson? Are you telling me that Lamar Jackson should not have more guaranteed money today than Deshaun Watson? It was easy to tell when no one did. It's a very simple explanation to the player in the locker room. When you go over to the locker, you sit down, maybe at the food room over a schmear, and you say, you're the best. We love you. But that Watson contract, we can't even talk about that. That is one idiot giving a contract to another idiot. Just ignore it. The conversations are all different now. Josh Allen is hardly a Schmendrick. Josh Allen is a worthy recipient of a contract extension, a worthy person to have on your team from day one to day final, a leader on and off the field, a fabric of the community, the exact person you want to build your team around. But why? I know the cap is going up in football. Have we not learned by looking at teams that win the Super Bowl that a quarterback alone is not going to do it? Save money for a running back, improve your defense, pay the offensive line, pay the defensive line. Have one of the best edge rushers, and you can go 4-13. You need a team. If you are going to continue to allocate money in the way that is currently happening to quarterbacks, edge rushers, wide receivers, and then watch the games, watch the season, and realize that it is the other players who are going to get you the Lombardi trophy. Why do you build your team in that way? Take that cap money and build a team that can win, which has strength on both sides of the ball, both lines. If you gave me a choice, Coca, I would take a rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, superb rookie quarterback, and I would win before he has to sign a second deal, before he's in the stratosphere of 40 million is barely anything anymore, 40, $50 million. I would invest money into both sides of the ball, and I would say that looks a lot like Howie Roseman's plan with Philadelphia. That looks a lot like how you get a ring. Please do not be confused by what I'm saying about Josh Allen. The shock is that the Bills decided that this was the time. Coca, correct me if I'm wrong. Was Josh Allen a free agent to be? I think I know this. I believe that Josh Allen had multiple years left on an extension that he signed. I believe you had a signed player. Now, it is true that Josh Allen has performed. But what's the purpose? To make Josh Allen happier? To lock him in? Or do you think that quarterback salaries are so out of control that it was a matter of when, not if, the Deshaun Watson ceiling would be pierced? So you might as well do it now. Just you wait. In baseball, I got to switch to baseball now because one of the loves of my life, of my 18-year career, was telling you and thinking about what it is to build a team during the off season, what it is to get to spring training, what it is to get a phone call from the trainer, what it is to see when one of your pitchers has lost velocity while they're on the mound and you know that there is hurt. What it is, I have it in my head, Coca. The route from where I would watch the games, both at home and on the road, because you'd always know the route to the clubhouse when you know that you're walking into news that you don't want to hear, that you know you've got to figure out what you're going to do with more payroll on the injured list. The New York Yankees spent an off season where they lost Juan Soto. They signed Max Fried. They trade for Devin Williams. They trade for Paul Goldschmidt. Great name. They believe they have a better team without Soto than with Soto. And then they find that Gerrit Cole, who has 4 years left of that huge contract that he signed with the Yankees, that everyone outside of the industry was willing to say this was one of the examples of a long-term deal with a pitcher that works. You win a Cy Young, you get to the World Series, great postseason performance. Boom, we've got ourselves a Scherzer Verlander situation, long-term deals that work. Major League Baseball in owners' meetings puts the list of pitchers on the board right there for you to see on a huge screen. 3 screens, one on the left, one on the right, and one right behind the dais where the commissioner sits. And they list the contracts and they say bad, 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 good, bad, decent, bad, bad. That's how it goes. And do you know what else we're taught in executive school? Premature exuberance may be the single worst thing that a baseball executive can feel. Premature exuberance is when a player's in the middle of a deal, has a fantastic year, your team has a great year, and you then say, we're good, no matter what happens the rest of the deal. We feed you a bunch of crap as fans and media. We sign a player to a 10-year, $300 million deal and say, we don't care about the last 5 years if he can't perform. We would pay $300 million for the first 5 years because in his prime, that's what makes the deal good. Don't worry about the back end of a deal, which of course is asinine because when the back end of the deal comes and the player is underperforming his deal, which is a guarantee, you're despondent. Not because there's a salary cap, because he's taking up an allotment of your salary no matter what level it is. You can't say that Gerrit Cole's contract is a success. If he ends up having Tommy John, Jim Bowden is out there saying that he's going to have Tommy John. Gerrit Cole said, we have an initial idea, but we're going to wait to see exactly what everybody says before we come to our conclusion. Do you know what that's code word for? I mean, Jim Bowden's really good. He's an insider. He breaks news. He's got the scoop from all of his sources. When a player says, we're going to wait to see what everybody says, there's not one pitcher who got an MRI that showed a tear in the UCL who didn't say, excuse me, I'd like a second opinion. And then you have a list of doctors that are pre-approved second opinion doctors. The unions agreed. The commissioner's offices agreed. You go to that doctor, no problem. They look at the MRI and say, that doesn't look so good. Let's try an in-person exam. And the player says, I have no update. I'm going to go visit that doctor. Because, of course, when the doctor puts hands on me, there may be a different conclusion. Which, of course, is total horse hockey. You look at the MRI, you see the tear, and you say, that's Tommy John. Gerrit Cole said, I still got some hope because all players, until they get the second opinion or until they wrap their arms around the reality that Tommy John is in front of them and rehab of Tommy John stinks. You walk into the clubhouse 2 days after surgery, your arm's in a brace, you have zero range of motion. You've got this thing that goes on your knee after an ACL, that brace that has the dial, and you're like, oh, look, I can move my arm. Oh, God, I got to do arm strengthening. Then I've got to throw from 30 feet, 60 feet, 90 feet, 180 feet. Then I got to get on a mound. Then I have to have a setback. Then I have to look at scar tissue. Then I have to pray to the Lord. Dear Evan Hansen, please make this rehab work. And you go from doctor to doctor. Have you ever done that? I don't like what you said. What do you mean I've got 32% blockage in my artery? I'm going to go to the next doctor. I'm going to wait till I find someone that says 25% so I can keep eating bacon fat. Remember that Gerrit Cole is the player who just a year ago, they shut him down the first 75 games because he had an elbow problem. News alert, UCLs don't fix themselves. There are pitchers who can pitch. My favorite example is the most famous example. It was a guy named Tanaka who pitched for the Yankees many years ago. And he did some funky PRP stuff. And he pitched. It's the unicorn. Gerrit Cole will not pitch again this entire season because Gerrit Cole is going to have Tommy John surgery. And the sooner he acknowledges it, admits to it, gets okay with it, goes under the knife, you can start the clock with an attempt to come back from a second TJ, with an attempt to make any sense of the 4 years, 144 left. Do you remember just this past offseason when Gerrit Cole had an opt-out of his contract? And he opted out of his Yankees contract, even though he's wanted to be a Yankee his entire life. So happy to be home in the stadium where he went as a child. So happy that he had an opt-out in his long-term big deal and said, I exercised that. And then it was only a few days later when he said, just kidding. What do you think happened there? Do you remember what happened? That all the other teams were like, we're not giving you a long-term contract. Your elbow's about to fall off. And he went back to the Yankees hat in hand and said, I was just kidding. If I were Brian Cashman or Hal Steinbrenner, I would have said, you opted out, dude. Sorry. We'll sign you for maybe a year or two at about $15 million a year. But frankly, you're about to have surgery. Your elbow was hurt all last year. Now, you did come back and you pitched really well into October with some velocity decrease, with his breaking stuff not as good as it has been. Why? Because his elbow was hurt. It all makes sense if you're just willing to listen. Wait to see when we tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If not, fine. Gerrit Cole will miss the entire season in 2025. We don't know yet about Giancarlo Stanton. And Giancarlo Stanton, who you know I know well, he doesn't complain a lot at all. One of my favorite players as it related to that, because things hurt and he's got injuries, soft tissue injuries, things happen. He gets frustrated, but he is not a complainer. He is a stand-up man who, if he can't go, he can't go, and there's a reason he can't go. Word is coming out about his elbows. We talked about it last week. He had not spoken to the press yet. And he said, let's finish the treatment and go from there. I absolutely hate this. I'm going to get back as soon as possible. While acknowledging that a surgery on the elbows in order to cure what ails them, he would miss the entire season. The only thing that I will confirm for you is that Stanton doesn't like having surgery. It will be a last resort. He's getting a third PRP. That reeks of desperation because PRPs in general, I'm not in love with. They don't work often. And if first doesn't work, you try a second, maybe. When that doesn't work, I've not had a player try a third. And Stanton is trying for a third PRP. The odds are that you will be looking at surgery in order to get him better for the remaining years of his contract. And it is true, he hates it. He wants to play. He wants a ring. He's gotten the money already. He wants to be a winner. I feel for him. I don't necessarily feel for Steve Cohen, though. I mean, you know my view. He's putting the team together. He's spending way more money than he should. Totally irresponsible. Doing it because he can. Doing it because he thinks it's going to work. And then he meets the media during the offseason fan fest and says, you know, this isn't sustainable. This seems silly to keep having a payroll this high. He puts his team together. He gets Juan Soto. And then Minaya and Montas are out, two of his starting pitchers. So you pray to God that Clay Holmes can be a number 2 starter. And now for the second straight year, their starting catcher is out. Francisco Alvarez broke the hamate bone. That's the bone. If you're watching this on Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, it's the bone right here. Let me see if I can show it to you right there, right by the pinky knuckle. It's when you're holding a bat and the ball hits you. Hit by pitch is the most common way to do it. He's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. So just for those scoring at home, 2 months. That means at best he's back sometime in May, at best. But the odds are it'll more be like June, depending on how quickly he heals. And when you're a catcher, it's not ideal. And you just think to yourself that the Mets were so good when Alvarez was healthy. They were 30 over last year when he was healthy and 14 under when he didn't play. And you're Steve Cohen heading to start the season 17 days from today. They're not going to Japan. 17 days from today. And he's thinking to himself, what am I doing? What am I doing? Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about something that's going on in Tampa that I am not shocked about. And then we're going to get to the huge, huge announcement in Las Vegas. We'll do it all after the break. Welcome back to Nothing Personal on a manic Monday, one that would make Ms. Hoffs proud. Watched a bunch of movies this weekend. Thank you for downloading and subscribing to what we do every day for 50 minutes. I want to hear from you, by the way, as we head into this critical last few weeks of March, the excitement or anger or boredom or love that you would have if we made this show a bit longer each day. There's so many things we don't get to. Let me know at davidsamsonpodcast.com. Let me know, David P. Samson on X. No matter how much show I give you, and we give you because we love to do it, I'm still going to watch a movie every day. Michael Keaton has had a great career, and I happen to love him. He's in a movie called Goodrich, which you can see on Amazon. I think that's where I watched it, Coca. Goodrich is about it's on Max. Thank you, Coca. We're trying to tell you all where to watch it. There you go. It's a movie that, while not hugely highly rated on IMDb, the reason I loved it, it's about a father who is raising two kids who are young, but he's got an older kid from a previous marriage played by Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher's wife. And he was a bad dad to start, and now he's got a new family where he's going to try to be a good dad, because that's always the way to go when you're a man who gets divorced and you cared about work only, and then you start over with a, in theory, younger wife, have more kids, and say, I'll do it better this time. I won't miss one great thing. That always works well, doesn't it? Well, his name is Goodrich. He owns an art gallery, and he's trying to do it better. And his second wife ends up in rehab. He's got to raise these kids alone. It's not exactly like Mr. Mom, but it did remind me of an updated, more intellectual, more mature, smarter Mr. Mom with great supporting performances. Maybe it's just that I'm close to that issue or totally relate to that issue. Either way, I loved it. Being with the Expos and Marlins for your career, you're sort of used to being the have-not. Happy to have won the World Series, obviously. Happy to have successfully gotten the team sold for our owner to Bruce Sherman. Happy to have had the career that I had. Happier to have the career I have now. Coke, I forgot to tell you. Can we do a quick side note? There's a bunch of people within baseball and within the executives who listen to our show. I got an Instagram IM from someone in the game who's like, hey, I think you got that story wrong. And then I said, are you sure? Did you listen? Yeah, I listen all the time. And that can't be what happened. I said, that's exactly what happened. Oh, yeah. Sorry. That was funny. You're welcome, Coca. I don't know why I just thought of that, but I did. But one of the things that happened over 18 years is we had the threat of contraction, the threat of relocation, total despondency over lack of revenue. We would look at the Tampa Bay Rays and we'd look at them and we would both look at them in awe and with love, with a loving glance of, hey, we're just like you, except you win a lot of games. I saw a stat this weekend that shocked me that the Rays since 08, Coca, have won the third most games of any team in Major League Baseball. That is a run of success that would obviously make 27 other teams jealous. It would make teams want to copy and imitate that which the Rays do, and then you realize you can't do it because the owner of the Rays, a guy named Stu Sternberg, is a Wall Street guy. He leads a group of partners who bought the team from Vince, do you know who I am, Namoli. They have never been able to get a stadium deal done because they've never wanted to get a stadium deal done. They have wanted to get out of the Trop, but they've wanted to go north, young man, go north. And I don't mean to Tampa. Then they had the announcement last year that they've got a deal in St. Petersburg. They're going to do development that would make Atlanta blush. They're going to do an entire city that would make Jorge Mas say, that looks familiar. And then somehow the deal fell apart. There was a hurricane. The roof came off. There's been fighting. You've been following the issue with me here on Nothing Personal. But yesterday, things took a turn in a way that never happened to me. Evan Drellick, the fantastic reporter for The Athletic, where I again tell you that they are not a sponsor. I don't get paid to say it, but please get The Athletic. He wrote an article saying that MLB may be forcing Stu Sternberg to sell the team, and that there are people ready to buy the team who are ready to go forward with the St. Petersburg Stadium, because the Tampa Bay Rays only have 21 days from today to do their part of a contract that they executed with the city and the county in order to get the stadium underway, and they've told you, we're not doing it. Now, they pretend they're going to do it, and they say that we'll have information soon. We're going to have this figured out. You remember that the city and county floated the bonds of the public money for the ballpark, and that the St. Petersburg new stadium was on track again. But you also remember that Matt Silverman, the co-president of the Tampa Bay Rays, said, hey, we've lost a year because of the slowness of the city and county, and now the ballpark's going to be way more expensive, not mentioning tariffs, not mentioning inflation, not mentioning the fact that their budget may not have been real from the first place, but let's not quibble. But we're only going to be able to open in 2029. Hi, my name is David. We had our ballpark that we thought was going to open in 06, then 07, then 09, then 10, then 11, then another lawsuit. Finally, we had 12 on the books. We knew that the cost of the ballpark was going to go up, but we made sure to make a beautiful ballpark on budget, on time, for under $515 million. We were able to work with our contractor. We were able to work with our architect and build a ballpark to be proud of with the money we had, because we didn't have any more. We couldn't go to baseball and say, hi, we're out now. Let us move. We had to get the deal done, just like the Tampa Bay Rays have to get the deal done. Why? Because baseball is not going to allow the team to move out of Tampa. They're not going to allow the team under Stu Sternberg to move to the Northeast. It's not going to happen. They're not going to be allowed to move to Montreal. They're not going to be allowed to move to Nashville, San Antonio, Portland, Vancouver. Pick a city. We'll get to the fact that they allowed John Fisher to do it, but let's stick with Stu Sternberg for the moment. So what do you do if you're baseball and you've got an owner who doesn't want to cooperate and do a deal? You flex the muscle of what it means to be a franchisee. Because at the end of the day, Major League Baseball has 30 franchisees. And you sign a lot of legal documents with your papa, who is the commissioner's office. And MLB has more power than they normally flex, more power than owners ever like to admit, because people want to own a team so badly, they'll sign just about anything. And I will bet you dollars to donuts that the documents that you're forced to sign are not read by an overwhelming majority of the owners. I happen to know that. Part of what the documents talk about is that they have the right to pull your franchise, take your team away if you don't have a place to play that is suitable under Major League Baseball standards as decided by Major League Baseball. Steinbrenner Field is not a Major League suitable facility. The Tampa Bay Rays have got to find a place to play after this season, and they've got to have a new stadium on board. Why? Because Major League Baseball, in the fine print, can call you up one day and say, hi, we're going to take away your revenue sharing. And you know what you can do? I double dare you. Sue us. I'll be the arbitrator, said the commissioner. Try to get it into a regular court. Is it true that MLB is forcing Stu Sternberg to sell his team? Why do you think Evan Drellick would get that story? And then why do you think Stu Sternberg would give a quote when asked and reached for comment yesterday and said, I'm interested to read about what industry partners have told you about our franchise and its future. That sounds like fighting words, doesn't it? Well, I am going to help you, Stu, and I'm going to help you understand so you don't have to read about what your industry partners are saying. Because all that needs to happen is 23 of those partners have to agree with the commissioner, and your revenue sharing money that you need to run your team at only a slight loss or maybe even break even will disappear faster than you can say St. Petersburg. The ultimate hammer that Major League Baseball has is to take your franchise away. The second biggest hammer they have is to take away a revenue stream. You know that the commissioner of baseball has the right to take all of the national money that Noah Garden and his group bring in on behalf of all the owners and can decide to keep it all, send you $10. They can do it because they want to start a war chest in case of a collective bargaining issue, which is most certainly to come. They can do it because they want to pay down debt. They can enforce rules in the CBA, like the debt service rule, which doesn't allow your team to have debt if it doesn't have positive EBITDA. You can only have debt at a certain level. It's not really enforced, but it could be. It could even be enforced selectively, and there's not a tinker's damn thing you can do about it. Scary, isn't it? Scary to think that you could buy your house, be all excited, move in your favorite couch, get a knock on the door, and it's Rob Manfred saying, you got to sell. You think that's impossible? With your own house, it sort of is. Eminent domain. But in baseball, it can happen. And here's how the call goes. Stu, you got two choices. You can either agree to the deal by March 31st and go forward and do a capital call from your partners, find debt, and build your stadium. Why? Because we're expanding. The other owners want the expansion money, and we can't do it with you and Oakland not finished. There is going to be a real problem. I love press conferences. I'm in. The Sacramento Aths had a press conference in Vegas. John Fisher was there but didn't talk. It was the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. It was the John Fisher also at this press conference stood up and talked about how great it is. They were in Vegas with the strip behind them, with the A's logo on the sphere. Everything was looking super cool. And do you know what they were announcing? They weren't telling you about their development agreement. They were so happy that they had released all of those renderings. But you'd think it was the press conference announcing the official done relocation and the groundbreaking of the stadium where you saw vertical growth. Instead, they were announcing a patch deal. I shite you not. There was an entire big press conference because the A's made an announcement of a 3-year marketing partnership with the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, where on the Sacramento A's jerseys, remember, you can't call them that, they're the A's, or when you look at box scores, you'll see the Aths in the line score. For those of you who don't know why I keep saying Ath, and you're going to see, boom, Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Nah, it's just Las Vegas. Do you know what we didn't hear? We didn't hear how much money the A's got. I would have loved to have known. Is Vegas sending more public money to the A's team as a way to get more public money to their team, more revenue that can be used to help bridge the financing gap that most certainly still exists in the stadium deal that is not nearly done because there's no development agreement? Nothing. Everybody who announces a jersey patch deal, and jersey patches are super popular, everyone who announces them always gives you a term. The Yankees got 25 million from that company. Can't remember what it is, Star. Can't remember what they do. Insurance? Can't remember that it matters other than the 25 extra million bucks. The announcement done in Vegas didn't have a number. Do you think that the A's gave them that as a thank you? As a way to make it, if you make it, fake it till you make it? We'll put the Vegas patch on us and everyone will believe that it's a done deal that we're in Vegas? It seems to me to be preposterous. John Fisher said, for the Athletics, this partnership is more than just a jersey patch. It's the beginning of the transition to our new home, a chance to wear our hearts on our sleeves for the next 3 years. Again, I'm tearing up. I'm just curious, does the jersey patch do anything to advance the relocation of the Sacramento Ass to Vegas? I can't think of a way that that would work, but I'm willing to spend the balance of the day trying to establish how it's possible. But not for now. It was a funny press conference. Look for the Vegas patch on the A's sleeves. Let me just conclude that by telling you, it doesn't mean a thing. I don't know the money involved, but they would have announced it. I know that it doesn't actually help in a negotiation because guess who's not negotiating the development agreement? The Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. Believe me, we dealt with the Miami Convention and Visitors Authority. They are not at the negotiating table. Nothing personal pick of the day. We are 19-26-2 because on Friday, Jokic had a terrible game and that we had the Nuggets -8 over the Suns, and it ended up being a push 149-141 in overtime. I don't know why Jokic is so far behind SGA in the MVP race. SGA, according to our friends at DraftKings, is like -330 to win MVP, and the Joker is +500 to win MVP. Jokic did something in that game that is simply unheard of. The first NBA player in history to go 30-20-20. He had 31 points, 21 rebounds, 21 assists. It's just staggering. I've got Jokic as my MVP. Sorry, Charlie. I'm not giving Oklahoma City Thunder lack of love. They probably are the best team in the West. But Joker deserves another MVP. For tonight, we're going to go with the Lakers. The Lakers are HOTTT. The Lakers are firing on all cylinders. They brought Luka in to play with LeBron. The two of them are playing great. When LeBron's on the court, he is top 5 player. Don't worry about his plus-minus ratio. When Luka's on the court, he is super efficient and looks terrific. Lakers -6 over the Nets. Can't wait to see how LeBron plays tonight. Wait, hold on. Let me get my glasses. Oh, LeBron James is out. Yes, it's true. LeBron James hurt his groin. He's expected to miss, according to Shams, 1 to 2 weeks. Why? Because he hurt his groin another time, like during the 18-19 season when he tore it and missed 17 games. The hope is it's not a tear, although it's about grades of tear, because when you strain your groin, that's sort of like a tear, but it may just be a string or strand or two. It's sort of like with your hamstring, where if it's off the bone, you're screwed. And if it's just sort of frayed, you say it's a strained hamstring, not a torn hamstring, which is wrong because they're all tears. The fact is that we're going to find out what the Lakers are without LeBron. there is going to be an earlier than we anticipated view of the future where this does become Luka's team. And we'll find out whether they needed Mark Williams. Their defense has been terrific. We'll find out if the Lakers really are a top 3 seed. We're going to give the 6 points to the Nets tonight in Brooklyn. But what we're really focused on is what happens while LeBron is out when Luka takes the team and says, you know what? I got this, LeBron, because it's just business and I'm going to take care of it. We'll be back tomorrow. This is nothing personal.